Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Two World Podcast. I'm getting us started off today, and I'm Barney, and I'm joined with my co-host, and he is
Jacob.
And we thought that as summer doesn't technically end until September 20th, today would be a great time to reflect a little bit and share a little bit with each other and with you out there, especially if you're watching with us on YouTube, about how our summers, especially our summer vacations, went. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun. For us, we had one big, huge highlight, which was spending time back home in Ohio. And then maybe I'm eager to find out exactly how Jacob spent his summer because for me it felt like I was spending my summer with him spending his summer, but it was actually within the context of I was barging in upon his daily life, his work week and whatnot, just trying to squeeze in as much time with him and his family and with me and my other family, my extended family, as I could. And yeah, so I thought, well, probably the reason I say that today would be a good YouTube viewing episode is because I think we have a lot of good, fun pictures to share that we'll do our best to describe for everyone listening along on podcasts as well. So, Jacob, what were some of the, did you have like a family trip or did you have a family trip and some small things along the way? Or how was your summer vacation um, scheduled this year?
It was different than typical years. We normally have a family vacation planned for a beach getaway or a destination like that for a bigger chunk of days, maybe like a 5 day vacation if possible. But this year, we were actually trying to save some money because the previous year we had taken a little bit of a larger vacation. And then Aubrey's a senior this year, so we were anticipating after her graduation wanting to do something a little bit bigger. So this past
Mhm.
summer was a simpler summer in terms of vacation, but we were able to get away to West Virginia where our son Micah was serving with Appalachia Build, this program run by MCC, which is similar to Habitat for Humanity, where they help people who don't have a lot of resources improve their homes and do repairs on their homes. So we went to visit him there, which was great. And then we were also able in that same trip to visit some close friends who live in Harrisonburg, Virginia. And then Katie and I got away for our honeymoon just west of Cleveland to this nice biking trail. So that was like a
Mhm.
little day trip. But then actually, it was perfect that you and your family came this summer for us to have some fun excursions with you because we didn't have any big travel plans. So it was any way to make the summer more special and have friends visiting was good. So yes, our chance to go with you to the zoo and have you over to our home and do some other fun things was very welcome. So you weren't intruding or and posing on us at all. It was very welcome.
Yay.
Yeah. How about you? What was the summer like? Did it have some family trips? How would you describe it?
Yeah, I think that otherwise, we once the kids finished school, then we started to focus pretty intently on our big plan to go to the United States, which I think we started thinking about what we wanted to do from March or so, and then it kept evolving and changing into different ideas. I very much understand my wife's point of view that if we're going to go all the way to North America, do we have to spend all of the time in Ohio? you know, and yeah, that makes sense. I really can get that. It's very fun for me spending all my time in Ohio, but maybe it could get a little bit monotonous for other people. So then we thought, hey, I've always wanted to go to Montreal, and I think my wife's always wanted to go to Montreal, and using her airline tickets program, we could go to Montreal. So we thought, why not try that? And then um, that was our first trajectory. And the website that we use, because we have to fly standby, so it has kind of color coordinated like a stop sign. So if it's green, then it's a very good chance. If it's yellow, then probably you can get on the flight. And if it's red, then most likely you will not get on that flight. So we were focusing on Montreal for a while, and then we thought, oh, and I also have a friend in Montreal, so we thought we'd drop in on him. Then we realized maybe it's not so there aren't so many fun things for kids to do there. I'm not sure. I mean, it looks like there are some good things, but how would an 8-year-old and a 4-year-old really enjoy Montreal? And then I was especially looking forward to going to Quebec City. And then we thought, oh, that hotel does look really cool, but would they really enjoy it there? So then we shifted to LA. And we thought that Universal Studios would be fun for them. But then that flight started to get yellow, like really early. Um, Probably because a lot of people want to see Shohei Ohtani play baseball. So then we switched. Then contacting my friend in Montreal, he said, "Yeah, there's lots of fun things to do in Montreal." And we thought, "Oh yeah, okay." So then back to Montreal, and then sadly that flight um, became yellow, and we didn't want to risk it. Um, and then getting from Montreal back to Ohio would have been a little bit tricky. We would have had to go through Pittsburgh. Um, so then we decided, okay, let's just go straight to Ohio. And then I said to my wife, I promise that we'll do a lot of things away from my my house while we're there to make it more fun. So other than that main trip, which took a lot of our time and mental energy to and emotional energy to get ready for it, um, we didn't really have anything else that was really summer vacationy. Maybe we went out to eat a little bit here and there, but otherwise it was at home and working on homework because it's summer break, but it's still the school year is still going on, and elementary kids get homework that they have to do. They have a homework file and they have to do some project. There's a list of possible projects, but they have to get a project done too. So that we spent a lot of time focusing on that once we got back from the United States.
Nice. Well,
Mm-hmm.
that's good to hear. I had a sense of that, but really for both of us, then your visit here in Ohio was pretty big because the
Mm-hmm.
central trip of your summer, and with us like having less trips in the summer, your visit was also like very prominent for us too.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
Mm-hmm.
very cool. Well, I was thinking it might be kind of fun to show a few pictures from
Yeah.
the time when we both were able to
Oh
connect
yeah.
here. So I have some pictures from the zoo trip. Would it be good to start there, or did you have some you wanted to share before we would share about
Um,
that?
yeah, when I put my slides together, I just kind of did a chronological order
Yeah,
thing. So
great.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Where do your earliest pictures start before the zoo, or do
Yeah,
you have?
you know what? Maybe yeah, that might make sense if I just kind
Okay.
of get started. So again, I'm using a computer that I'm not so familiar with here. So I hope I can get um, the show started here and get us to the right spot. Oh, because I don't want to. Hmm. Um, I would think that pressing on the play button would start the slideshow, but it doesn't seem to. Um, I guess I can just share the screen
Perfect.
and yeah, we'll see how it looks. So sadly, it's not in slideshow form. And let me just delete 2 slides because this is kind of like I had some other, um, it's just like my go-to template file here. So it had other things going on there.
Oh yeah,
Uh, yeah. Okay. So, okay, how does that look?
that's looking really good.
Okay, great. So, yeah. So we started at the airport in Japan with me and the 3 kids. So we were trying to save seats and save space, and so they all piled on my one lap there. And then during the flight, then I had a time because our flight was during the night Japan time, so I had a time where um, I had one kid on each leg asleep, and I it was fine, but it got really uncomfortable before too long because I didn't want to move to wake them up. And then I was really sore from sitting in that way, but I persevered.
Was it pretty warm with them like that?
No, no, not too bad.
Okay.
The cabin was pretty cool, so it was okay. Yeah, but just yeah, just uncomfortable. Yeah, and then I don't know, how about you? When you fly, I sometimes I like taking pictures out from the window.
Oh, yeah.
Eh, Yeah, and so then our flight, we flew to Denver this time, and then our flight to Cleveland, we
So
passed.
pretty.
Yeah, and it was kind of neat. We could use the app to kind of track the route of the plane, and then so it gave you some good context for what cities you're nearby. And this is Indianapolis, and Lena, who was on the show a few times, she's down there somewhere. Although I think this is the northern part, so she's in the southern part of Indianapolis. But yeah, I thought so. Wow, it's really neat to see these things from these views from at nighttime because you don't necessarily get to see this all the time. Yeah, and then yeah, so then our big first visit. I just had to squeeze this photo in on the left. So this is not the zoo. This is when another time when Jacob and I and Hannah and our kids went to Toy Store, one of the world's biggest independent, I guess, toy stores in a very big chair. But the one on the right there is at the Cleveland Zoo. It was think that might have been the koala area, and then another fun thing from the zoo, and then I'll stop sharing my screen is there was Hannah bought a snake, and somehow we were borrowing the snake a little bit, and then I just kind of plopped it around my neck, and then she mentioned, this is like what they do in Vietnam, and it is like what they do in Vietnam. So then there's me many years earlier with a real snake, um, uh,
That's awesome. That
yeah,
is
so
cool.
recreating the scene.
Oh man, that is perfect.
Yeah.
Well, very good.
Oh,
I like to
cool.
see those pictures, and I'm going to just add a little bit to the zoo trip because I
Hmm.
have some pictures of. All right.
Oh
So
yeah.
this was the outside of the zoo, and it just so
Mm.
happened to correspond to the same time of year when they have this Chinese Lantern Festival exhibit set up. So
Hmm.
the entrance to the zoo was decorated in a special way for that, and it was kind of fun just to get a picture by that. And for those who are watching on YouTube, you can see the dragons and the fish behind us and the bright blue and orange banners. But for those who are watching online, you just have to listen to us describe it. It was
Hmm.
just a really interesting mix of these large yeah, displays with the bright colors and the different Chinese art style. It was very cool to have that there at the zoo. And then Hannah had a lot of fun prowling around with Silas and Yuma. And this picture we took right outside of the building where there were a lot of aquariums
Oh
and
yeah.
interesting fish and water creatures to see. But then there also were some primates in this building too. So it's kind of a mix. But that was a really fun building. And outside the front, behind the kids, it's hard to see in this photo, but if I had zoomed out a little bit, there are all these big pictures of sea life and fish. It's kind of a neat banner. So I really
Hmm.
like. I've been to the zoo before and taken pictures by this because of that. Um, yeah, I think.
Yeah, yeah. It was neat thinking how Hannah had just been there a few weeks prior to the
Right.
zoo with her school, and then she was really helpful, acting as kind of like a guide, kind of helping us to get our bearings of what we would see where and kind of where we might want to go next. And but then at the same time, we had the chance to see some new areas that I think that she didn't get to see with her school, like when we were in maybe the koala area and maybe the kind of
Right.
Australia themed area.
Right.
So that was really fun to be able to share. So it felt fresh for her too, instead of thinking that maybe why are we going to zoo again,
That's right. Yeah. And I think it was nice for that reason. And just yeah, taking our time in different spots than we had in the last two. She had seen the first place we went to, which was like more of a rainforest type exhibit. But when we
Mm-hmm.
went through that with her classmates, they were so excited. They were, I won't say they were running through the exhibits, but they were going very quickly. So she didn't get to spend as much time. And when we went with you, we took our time and were able
Mm-hmm.
to take it in more. So I think that was
Mm-hmm.
special. Yeah. So that zoo day was great, and I don't have any pictures of it here, but we had this amazing lunch afterwards.
Ah,
You found the place, Barney, and it was so fun to just sit and enjoy the food. What do you know what type of food it was?
yeah. Actually, I have a picture of it.
Oh, perfect. Let me stop sharing, and you can
Yeah.
put.
Okay. Yeah. One of my main things, when people ask me about traveling, one of the main reasons I like to travel is for the food. And yeah, in this case, we have two of my favorite types of food, but yeah, it was a Honduran restaurant, or was it Guatemalan? I think maybe is somewhere, maybe it's Guatemalan. And I happened to go ahead and order. It was just a they labeled it as a vegetarian, but it had lots of vegetables and beans, and then plantains with rice. And then I also went out on a limb and got a horchata drink, which was milk with it was like freshly grated cinnamon. Like it wasn't,
Oh,
you could
wow.
tell, yeah, it wasn't powdery, it had like some real texture to it. And that I think I felt like everyone ordered something really nice that day. Um, and then just kind of like on the food theme, then I think maybe that night or maybe a day or two later, my dad grilled burgers and I started piling up, fresh tomato and whatnot. And then I said, this burger would be just perfect if there were a big slice of onion. And my dad said, oh, just, stay right there. And then he sliced up a few onions and everyone was watching me. You could see Silas's face. They're like, can he actually fit this burger into his mouth? And I like this picture because I'm just really enjoying the um the food so well. And
That's a great
yeah,
picture. And
yeah.
he's right there beholding it all,
Right.
watching it all.
Yeah, right. Right,
Dad,
right, right.
do it, Dad. Can you do it?
You're
I
the
think I
man,
can.
yeah. You're the man. If anyone can do it, you can.
Yeah.
But one thing I also really liked about our time at the restaurant was you had those little kind of conversation starter
Oh yeah.
um little pieces of paper that Katie had prepared. And it was
So
just
lucky.
neat. Yeah, for each kid that you remember they were in the car, and then each person picked one out, and we just, like one or two people answered the question and then went on to the next one. That was really fun. I think the kids really appreciated that too. They really thought that was fun.
Oh, good. I'm glad. I had a great time with that as well. Yes, thank you. And some of the questions were a little zany too, which was fun. I remember your dad laughing at one. It was something like, if aliens came and to our planet and wanted to take you back to their planet, would you go with them or something? Your dad's like,
Yeah.
yeah, that was so fun. And then speaking of food, we were able to have you over to our house for
Mm.
a meal. And I wanted to share a picture from that time. We ended up getting food from a local restaurant in Worcester called the Curry Pot. And
Mhm.
really good Indian food locally. And we had a chance also not only to visit with you and your family, but also with another family that lives here in Worcester, the
Mhm.
Fishburne family. I was really excited for your two families to meet because not only do I think you're all a lot of fun, but the Fishburnes have a unique connection to Japan.
Mhm.
The wife of in the family, Tomo, is from Japan, and this past year, her husband John and their son Charlie were able to visit Japan, and Charlie was able to actually take some classes while they were there for like maybe a month or a month and a half, I think, something like that. But so it's kind of neat for Charlie to go back and connect with his mom's roots and to learn about that part of his family heritage. And then I thought, oh, it would be so fascinating for your families to meet because you have this also combined heritage too in your family.
Mhm.
You have US and Japanese culture. And oh, it'd be kind of fun. You might have some stories to share. and sure enough, it was pretty cool to get everybody together, and I was really grateful. So this is a picture of us, most of us, sitting on the couch. I think Katie's taking the picture, and it's hard to
Uh,
get everybody in the frame all at once,
right.
but it was a really fun time. So because we did our meal, and then we had some gaming for the kids
Hmm.
afterwards, and then the parents kind of talked while the kids gamed, and then they got us in on some of the gaming too. So just to see how the
Yeah.
adults would do. So that was
Right.
fun. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I think that was very special.
Yeah,
So
that was really neat. And it was neat that that my wife and Tomomi had the chance to chat a little bit while we were playing games, busy then, then they kind of stayed back in the kitchen at the table a bit, and then they chatted. And it was fun that that Ayako, my wife, could kind of get a sense that um even in small town Worcester, Ohio, there's actually other Japanese people living there, and it's not impossible to live in such a small town and kind of enjoy and feel like there's like it's easy to get around and easy to do what you need to do, and also feel like there's a small sense of community there as well. And so it was nice to hear that, and it was interesting to see, we didn't exactly overlap with schooling, but the three of us, John and Tomomi, had been at the same high school at least one point in time in our lives. And and I guess maybe John was a freshman. I think, is that what we figured out when I was a senior? So of course I was really unaware that he was there. But yeah, but it was neat to find that connection and then kind of see where we are now in our lives, and then that amazing connection that, wow, two guys from this small town of Worcester, both were in Japan and ended up spending time there, and then get marrying women from Japan as well. It was pretty. It's such a small thing that you wouldn't think about. Small world.
absolutely. It was really fun to just be a fly on the wall in that conversation, so to speak. I mean, just to kind of hear you share stories and um, yeah, and I was just so grateful because I believe it or not, you would come a previous there. I wanted to do it for a while. Let me just say that because your previous
Hmm.
visit to Ohio, I really wanted to try to connect, make a way for your families to connect. I didn't get it scheduled in time, so this time I was like, I really, really want to try. So I think I started like weeks in
Oh,
advance, like
nice.
texting you
Oh
both,
yeah.
like work and how do you feel? And you guys are like, okay. So I'm like,
Hmm. Hmm.
we also
Yeah.
we were starting our podcast and developing a list of people we were hoping could be guests
Yes.
someday. John Fishburne made the list because he also is the director of a local agency here in Worcester called
Hmm.
180 that does a lot of important work in the community, helping people recover
Hmm.
from addiction and other things. And so we thought he would be a really interesting person to
Hmm.
interview. But the thing is, we typically had been recording on Fridays, and that falls when he's at work. So we haven't been
Oh,
able to get one yet, but I'm going to keep trying. Maybe eventually.
yeah.
Now that we're recording on Saturdays for a bit, maybe I can get him in. So,
Hmm. Hmm.
um, yeah. Well, would you have any interest in seeing a little bit of this place in West Virginia where Micah served with Appalachia Build?
Yeah, yeah, you read my mind. I was just going to say I'd like to hear more about, yeah, that
Yeah.
first part. Uh-huh.
Um, and we could probably come back. I would
Hmm.
assume there might be other things that
Hmm.
you can share from your time. But
Yeah.
so this town where Micah was serving is Kimball, West Virginia, and I think it was a couple hours south. I don't know if it's southwest of Charleston,
Hmm.
but it took us like around 5 hours to get there from here. And
Okay.
so this is Micah outside of the building where he stayed when we first got there. We um, we brought him a few things, and I took a picture at the corner of the building. I don't know
Oh,
if you can
wow.
see. There's actually
Hmm.
a statue of Mary there. This building had formerly been a Catholic church,
Hmm.
and then after it closed, it was built, I think, in the 50s. And then after it closed, then eventually the MCC organization um, purchased the building and moved their operations, their items into it.
Hmm.
So what I mean by that is they have housing for the volunteers. So this is
Hmm.
Micah's room, which I believe had been the former quarters of the priest that had served in this church years ago. Yeah, and but they also stored cabinets. This
Oh.
actually is the sanctuary where worship had been, but they stored
Huh.
cabinets and other wood-related items there. And then down in the basement, this is where they
Mm.
store odds and ends,
Oh, yeah.
screws, bolts, and building materials and pipes. And so
Hmm.
Mike was able to give us a tour, and it was really fascinating. And I was just impressed with how much the local community has kind of gathered around and supported the work of Appalachia Build with volunteers and space.
Hmm.
So there's this building, and then right up from it is, oh, and sorry, this is just one more picture from the building. They had these beautiful orange triangles above the windows that I,
Yeah.
all throughout the building, I thought that was kind of neat. I wanted to share that. Um, Quite pretty. But then right up the hill from this church is a small Methodist church, and they have gotten on board with supporting this Appalachia
Oh,
Build
oh,
program.
yeah.
You have on the church sign a welcome to one of the local,
Yeah.
or one of the youth groups that had traveled there from Lancaster, Pennsylvania, community Mennonite youth that were helping out that week as volunteers for the projects. And so when we went in, there was a map inside of that church of
Mm.
sites, project sites. And so some of the pins are red,
Mm.
some of the pins are yellow, and some of the pins are green. And that shows visually the gradation of like things that they're working on, things that they're getting ready to work on, and things that they haven't gotten to yet. Uh,
Oh.
and so, actually, I think maybe even green might even indicate things that they've completed.
Huh.
Yellow might be things they're working on, and red are things that they
Hmm.
haven't gotten to yet. I think that's how it was. But you can see pins all over the
Yeah.
map of the county, and you can see quite a few red pins. So there's
Hmm.
quite a demand for assistance. It's
Yeah.
that nonprofit is really making a difference. Like there's a need, but you can also see how great the need is and how they haven't been able to get to so many yet. So they keep working at that. And so it's important. And Micah kind of talked through who the community was there at the church and how they do things. And here he is kind of showing us around the volunteer boards and who does what when. And so it was really neat to see a little snapshot of his daily life and understand a little bit better what he was
Hmm.
doing. Like we could have telephone calls with him, but it was kind of
Mm.
neat to go and
Hmm.
be there on the ground. And then this is a restaurant that's in the small town, a Greek restaurant, Yasu.
Yeah.
And the owner of this restaurant was just a lovely person who had volunteered with Appalachia Build, and she was very hospitable. And so we went and enjoyed a lovely meal in her restaurant. And it's
Mm.
a restaurant that's been in the family for generations. Her grandfather
Oh.
started it, and her father
Wow.
maintained it. And this is kind of her in this picture here. I don't know if you can see where my cursor is.
Yeah.
That's her, and her in the middle is her grandson, and then that's her son to the right. And yeah,
Mm.
so she's a great host. And Micah's pointing to a picture below that, the outside of the restaurant. And I don't know if you can see water has come up to the
Oh, yeah.
restaurant.
Oh, wow.
They had a very large flood in this town, and it had a huge impact on the community. Damaged a lot of businesses and homes, and
Mm.
a lot of people moved away. So it's kind of been
Uh,
a, a struggling town, and even being
mm.
as rural and remote as it is,
Already.
even
Yeah.
before that flood, quite a few people had moved away. They had a Walmart, and then the Walmart failed, and they just don't have a
Mm.
lot of stores and things locally available. But then you have the resiliency of people who
Yeah.
have stuck around, like the owner of this restaurant, and I keep forgetting her name. Oh, Markella is her name, Markella.
Mm.
And her son is the mayor of that town. So
Oh.
their family has a deep commitment to that place, and it's
Yeah.
neat.
Right.
Yeah. And then this picture sideways, unfortunately, I
Mm.
meant to fix it, but I noticed she had the Lord's Prayer hanging in her restaurant in
Oh.
Greek, and I asked about it. And
Right.
so she has a Greek heritage too. Like
Huh.
obviously the restaurant's a Greek restaurant,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
and they brought that banner when her dad was not doing as well. They wanted to encourage her, and so they brought that, and they came and they prayed with them. And so she's just left it hanging. And it's nice, beautiful additional thing in the restaurant. So yeah, just that, you talked about meals when you travel, and this was
Mm-hmm.
special because this was
Mm-hmm.
Micah's favorite place in town, and plus
Mm-hmm.
Marcella was so nice and had a big impact on Micah. So it was neat to go there.
Oh, yeah.
And then in the town they have this railroad car exhibit you can walk by, and they actually have an active
Oh,
railroad right
wow.
there. And I said to Katie, I said, "Oh, it was great. I took a picture of you all waving at the train." And Katie said, "I wasn't waving." And if you look at this picture, you can see Micah waving, you can see Hannah waving, then you can see Katie plugging her ears. And I didn't realize when I took the picture, I thought they all were waving. It was quite loud when it went by. But Micah loves trains.
Uh-huh.
He's a rail fanning, so this was
Hmm.
wonderful for him because he volunteered there in the summer and he knew the schedule, and so certain times he'd
Oh,
go out
whoa.
and take
That's so
pictures, and
cool.
so yeah, that was pretty
Mm-hmm.
cool. Yeah, so this is just another shot of the building where he stayed.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then Micah took us to this town nearby called Bramwell. He
Mm-hmm.
loves this ice cream place. They have really good um, chocolate milkshakes. And so we went inside, and I
Mm.
was delighted that I saw a comic book rack in there. You don't
Oh,
see this
neat.
very
Oh,
often.
yeah.
And we sat right by it and had um,
Oh, wow.
our delicious chocolate milkshakes. But then all
Oh,
around,
yeah.
they had these display cases, and they actually had quite a bit of artifacts and things from
Mm-hmm.
American pop culture and quite a bit of comic
Mm.
book paraphernalia too. It was really fun. So that was special. But another prominent thing in the town is that there's a museum for trains. So there's
Oh.
Micah, one of the other railroad cars there. It's really special for him to be able to show that to us. So, and then the final day we were with him, he took us to this state park that had an overlook, and
Yeah.
it was just beautiful to see the mountains there in West Virginia. Enjoyed taking it in. So that was a nice final thing to do with Micah. So that was very special. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, since it was such a small town, where were you able to stay? Did you have to stay a little bit far away, or was there
We
some place to see?
he talked with the program coordinator, and they gave us permission to stay there. And so we
Oh,
stayed
great.
in the same building that Mike was staying in. There were a few extra rooms.
Oh, nice.
Pardon me, one extra room that was available that
Mm-hmm.
Hannah, Katie, and I were able to stay in. So
Mm-hmm.
it was perfect because we
Mm-hmm.
had this
Mm-hmm.
lovely evening with him, and then had our
Yeah.
and then headed out the next day. So it was
Mm-hmm.
short and sweet.
And then since this is connected with MCC, were some of the volunteers from other countries as well, or?
I'm trying to think. I think the volunteers that we met were all from the U.S. In this
Mm-hmm.
particular site, but it
Mm-hmm.
is common. You're right for MCC projects to have volunteers from other countries, and
Mm-hmm.
some like one of the popular program that MCC runs is the International Volunteer Program at IVEP, and those
Mm.
would be cases where international volunteers would be
Yeah.
placed at MCC
Yeah.
site.
Oh, I
So,
gotcha.
yeah,
Mm.
so we actually have an IVEPer right now here in the Wayne County area that we brought with. We have this five church partnership of Mennonite churches in the area, and we partner
Mm-hmm.
with Christian school to bring an IVEPer in who can help us work on our relationship with a congregation in Akron that primarily speaks Swahili in their services. They're
Mm-hmm.
Congolese Mennonites, and so the IVEPer speaks Swahili and is helping us build a
Oh,
relationship with
yeah.
that congregation. So
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
So, so that's positive. Yeah. So that's an example of IBEPR, but wasn't anybody assigned to this site in
Mm-hmm.
Kimball. I
Mm-hmm.
was there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we did meet volunteers from other areas around the U.S. There was, yeah, I guess there was actually a few people from Harrisonburg, Virginia,
Mm.
interestingly enough. I mentioned
Oh,
Harrisonburg
wow.
earlier, but
Mm-hmm.
I met two other pastors who were volunteering. Yeah, it was neat. And then that youth group from Lancaster was there, and Lancaster
Yeah.
went to. So
Wow.
yeah. But interestingly enough, throughout the summer, there were some groups that came of people that Micah knew already. Like there was a group that came from Bluffton, where he's going to
Ah,
college right
wow.
now. And then there was a group that came of Central students that he knew from his time here that came. So I think they were connected with Berlin Mennonite, perhaps. I'm wondering.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah,
but
right.
it was really neat to hear him also seeing some familiar faces there. So
Hmm. Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's really nice.
Was there anything else that you wanted to share about your visit here in Ohio? Because I know that you did other things after we had that meal together. And we even saw you again after that meal. So I didn't know if there was more
Right.
that you wanted to share. Bouncing back to your side of things.
Yeah. Yeah, I just I could just kind of flip through the few photos that I have left that were kind of interesting. So again, like on the theme of kind of getting away, we had the chance to go to Holmes County, and usually when we go to Holmes County, we'll go to somewhere for breakfast or the ashery, to look at the things there, the small bulk goods store, and then maybe kind of just enjoy driving along the roads. But this time we stumbled upon this it's called the farm at Walnut Creek, I think, and I think it's an Amish farm in a way, and especially like the main house and the barn that they have with horses and in it. I think you can kind of tell that those are meant for the horses are meant for buggies and whatnot, and then they do have typical livestock, but then they also have it's not really like it's kind of set up like a zoo, almost an open air zoo where you go on a horse-drawn carriage or wagon, and you get a bucket of feed, and then along the way they'll stop periodically, and there's different really exotic animals that come up, like this bison or um, and then actually in a stall in one of the barns was a camel, but there were giraffe and um, emus, and there were zebras that we didn't feed because the driver said they'll probably bite you. But
Oh my.
yeah, but there were also alpacas and llamas and whatnot, and it was very interesting to do that. I was really unaware of this place, and it was really fun. It was a good memory, and then one thing that I was glad that my kids forgot about is that last year we went to Dairy Queen a bunch last year, and I happened upon the to just the memory of saying, "Oh yeah, I used to get Dairy Queen birthday cakes every once in a while," and they were really interested in that. And then Yuma said that this year for his birthday, his real birthday, he didn't want a cake and that he wanted to wait and have a Dairy Queen cake. And they had forgotten about that. So then I went there one day. I just said, I just gotta go someplace and I'll be back. And I got them to write up happy birthday for Yuma and Silas, that even though neither of their birthdays are in August. And then we had that and that they really liked it. And then just they had the chance to do just kind of fun things like, be in the garden and walk around outside and play with my dad's dog, and then here's Silas helping out with husking the corn and then getting it ready to freeze. And speaking of trains, we did a lot of Ticket to Ride
Oh,
together,
fun.
Yuma
Oh,
and
yeah.
I. He's a
That's
huge fan.
awesome.
Yeah.
That's
So
pretty extensive.
yeah, this was, I guess, the US and Canada was pretty we came up with some pretty good train lines. We didn't always adhere to the you have to stop, the game ends when one person is down to two trains, and it also said that one person's only each person should only have 45 trains. But they put extra trains in there, so we went all the
Nice.
way. Yeah. And then
That's
and
fun.
then we did have a spur of the moment thing where we wanted to do I said, "Hey, let's do the canoeing." And we weren't sure. We just thought, "Oh, let's just go." We just decided like that day moments before, and then we went on the usual canoe trip that we like to go with you, Jacob, when you had the chance, but we weren't sure that day, so we just went. And the canoes were nice and new and leak free, and
Thank
yeah,
goodness.
so everyone had a really nice time. And yeah, and then the river was really slow, and then finishing up then on the day where you asked us if we had time to drop by the pet store, and it was so fun. Hannah and Silas. Here's a picture of Hannah holding
I love
Silas, and
that
he's
picture.
he's just never been so happy.
You can see the delight on both their faces.
Yeah, I know.
I think she just really felt like he's like a little brother. She's holding him
Mm-hmm.
there in her arms, and they have
Mm-hmm.
that kind of, yeah, sense of delight, like, you got me.
I know.
You
Yeah,
got
that was
me to
so
pick it up.
so neat to be able to share that because yeah, I think Silas really appreciated that, and Yuma liked having someone that was who's very close to his age around and that he could hang out with, and yeah, it
Right.
was
Yes, that
so
too.
nice.
Right. That
And
was
then
fun.
this was just something fun, just doing something ordinary, you know. And then
I agree.
yeah, and then our trip home then. Here's Cleveland in the early morning. I think it was maybe 6:30 in the morning on the left. So you can the lights are still on and the sky was a little bit gray. And then our final flight this time we went through Houston on the way back.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah. Yeah, and then they were very nice. They were really accommodating us for us that the flight was not very busy at all. And then so they made it a little bit more comfortable for us with just putting two people in a row. So that
Ah,
I didn't have to have anyone laying on my legs this time on the way
ah,
back home.
that was probably, yeah. I mean, you want to be there for your kids,
Hmm.
but at the same time, to have a little bit extra leg room probably was nice. Oh, that's lovely. Well, I'm really glad to see that because I only heard about the trip back. I didn't get to see any pictures, so it
Oh
was kind
yeah.
of fun to see you
Mm-hmm.
making it back, and I was glad to hear that
Hmm.
it worked out
Yeah.
so
Oh
well.
yeah. Hmm.
Uh, well, that's wonderful. Was there anything else that you'd like to say before we close our episode?
Yeah, just I'm glad for everyone indulging us, to share this time with them and with you too. And it was really neat seeing about Micah's experience because I know that you told us a lot. You told me personally a lot of updates here and there during his time, and it's what a great experience for someone to have, especially just after their first year of college. I think that probably will stick with him for a while, and it'll be neat to hear some of the other things that he'll come up with to do, and maybe how that experience affects him for years to come. I would think too.
Thank you, Barney. Yes, I agree. That was meaningful also to be able to share that. And yeah, I just thought that visit was so special this summer, and I'm glad we were able to share that with our audience. And we hope that you had some great experiences too with your own travels or your own visits or opportunities to host friends or family. And until next time, goodbye.